The 10-Minute Talent Rant is live. I'm James Hornick, joined by Jeff Smith, and we are on the clock. The 10-Minute Talent Rant is our ongoing series where we break down things that are broken in the talent acquisition and hiring space, maybe even pitch a solution or two. Before we dig in, all of our content can be found at talentinsights.hirewell.com. This week's topic, Jeff, if you are ready, episode 110, how AI will make or break recruiting.
You know what I need? I need AI to figure out why Riverside, our posting platform, doesn't jive with my computer for whatever reason. It used to, but they're not chilling. 2
weeks in a row, we cannot figure this out, and Jeff is recording from his phone. So
lots of swearing prior to this.
All right, let's get into this week's topic. Now that the tariff discussion has completely dominated the economy, we're going to backslide into AI.
Go back into a real hot topic.
Yeah, back. So there's two things that we wanted to talk about, some things that haven't been gotten into, but there was two big stories that came out in the past week that viral. I don't know if the first one's a story, but that kind of cracked me up. So there was that AI 2027 white paper, would it be? I don't even know what you'd call it, but went viral though.
I mean, it is like doomsday.
Yeah, and it was like one of the guys who was early with ChatGPT and a bunch of other researchers, quote unquote, and it got everyone like whipped up in a panic. But the problem with it wasn't just saying where AI is going. It was predicting all these geopolitical events, like saying China's going to do this, and then the Nasdaq's going to rally 30%. I'm like, I write science fiction. This was all setting. This was a setting of a science fiction backdrop. This wasn't like saying where AI is going. It's like trying to predict like a million different, like no one can make these predictions. So what cracked me up was on the flip side, there was also an article that came out that prompt engineering is dead. This is in the Wall Street Journal. So the hottest skill set, if you remember 2 years back, everyone needs to become a prompt engineer. It's like the hottest skill set.
So hot right now.
So hot. Now it's dead because people realize that all prompt engineering is knowing your domain cold and knowing how to communicate and ask it the right questions. That's all prompt engineering ever was.
Yep.
So, which brings me to the point that humans are terrible at predicting future events. We just spot patterns of today and think we can see the tea leaves or whatever.
Well, yeah, and then you read some other article where it's like cherry picked, like, oh, Nostradamus predicted this. It's like, okay, well, like every squirrel finds a nut, right?
Guy made one good prediction, and all of a sudden, everything else he says must be gold. Anyways,
yeah, hence the euphemism. All right. So, I mean, it's all real, these phenomenon, as it were, but it's not entirely new, of course. Case in point of the last, what we just talked about. We're really just talking about better automation for the masses. In the software development world, machine learning and automation has been around like decades, not years, decades. It's been around for a while.
Yeah, this is the whole thing. So I was talking to a CTO at a client of ours last week. And like he was just kind of saying, like he's joking, like none of this is new. It doesn't really impact what him and his team are doing. Like for instance, like his goal is to make his sales team for his company 20% more efficient by automating more processes using machine learning. Like this is a normal thing that corporations and technology departments do.
By the way, good on him or her. I don't know if it's a him or her for focusing on one objective with it that's simple and pushing it forward. Kudos to you, person who came up with that.
Yes. So the thing I want to point out, though, is here's what's different about the AI boom. I shouldn't say different, but here's why it's kind of extended, is that what AI has become into, as we know it, LLM models, it's given an opportunity for individual people themselves to make themselves more efficient. Mm-hmm. Meaning you don't have to worry about, you're not waiting for your technology group to find a way to make you better at your job or more efficient at your job. You can now do it potentially on your own if you're curious enough to do that. And we're going to probably use the word curious a million times in this podcast. People who, and this is the bold claim, is that people who don't figure out and aren't curious enough to use AI are the ones who are most likely to end up losing their role.
Correct.
Or at some point in time. And I hate to say that, I don't want to sound like a doomsday person, but this is just kind of the reality of it. AI is capable of basically taking a lot of the tactical work away from people, which is really what we're talking about when we're talking about making you more efficient, is like the boring stuff that takes forever. That way you can get more strategic, either get more done or focus on more strategic ways you can get your job done. And the people who can't think strategically about that stuff are the ones who are ultimately going to be in trouble.
Yeah. So let's look at this. You've got strategic and tactical thinkers on each side of the equation. Phil Knight, our Nike guy. I love me some Nikes
right now.
Yeah, I am actually. Said it best in Shoe Dog. Some people are great tacticians. Some people are great strategists. Very, very few people are both. Tactical only, like you said, like these grind through tasks sorts of jobs and individuals, like those are the people that are at risk, unfortunately. The strategy only people who don't get into the details and may be a little bit resistant to using this stuff to make them more efficient will also struggle. So the winners here are people who can think strategically and know how to execute and utilize this sort of technology tactically. You can't make better bacon or sausage or whatever you want, whatever meat you're producing, if you don't know how it's made, right?
Yeah. That's the thing is I think that when we talk to, there's a lot of fractional exec is a really popular thing right now. There's more and more people doing it. And the people I see having a better time of it are the ones who can actually get into the weeds and still know enough about the processes to be able to consult about those things, as opposed to people who've been so disconnected from it. So it really requires like the people who can think strategically and do things tactically and improve those things tactically are the ones who are best to benefit. Anyways, AI and recruiting. Let's kind of get to that because that was kind of the lead here. Ultimately, what we're talking about is like the boring, repetitive stuff. Note-taking, organizing data, speeding up reports, automating basic research. It's like, think of it as having just a really, again, none of this is like terribly new, but like a extremely fast average assistant. If you don't know your processes, if you're not good at recruitment process inside out, it's not really going to help you. It's going to help you enhance that process and do those things faster. That way you can, because really the goal here, and I think this is what everyone is upset with in the recruitment world when they're on the other side of it, when they're a job seeker, or if you're a client working with a recruiter and you're not terribly impressed with that recruiter, it's that like, they're not human enough, they're not listening to you, they're spending all their time taking notes and grinding through their day, but they're not actually engaging in the human side of the conversation, which is really the whole point of what recruiting is to be able to kind of read between the lines and understand the bigger picture, what's happening with this company's search, or the bigger picture what's happening with this candidate and what they're looking for. That way you can actually put two and two together and make that human connection.
It should give you more time to focus on building relationships.
Yes.
Case closed. And people who don't look at it that way are in big trouble. What AI doesn't do in the recruiting process is exactly that. It does not build relationships. It does not strategize. I think I've repeated this, or you've repeated. We've had 110 episodes. This is at least the 5th time I've brought this up. An algorithm, Oz, behind the curtain, AI, robot, whatever, is not selecting what candidates make it to interview or not.
No.
It is not happening. It's still a human process. And the reason it's so terrible is that it is so woefully understaffed at the corporate level that it just takes weeks and months to get through that candidate funnel. That's all that's happening.
Yeah.
AI does not, and hopefully can never, replace human interaction. If you think about what's important in the process, right? In a job seeking or interview process from the corporate perspective, there's 3 things that are always considered. Number 1, you've got hard skills. You have to have this stuff to do the job. If you're a tax accountant, you have to know tax law and, your state's regulations, etc. Number 2, you think about culture fit. Do they have do they have what it takes to fit within the values of the organization, whatever your organization is looking for? And number 3 is all the intangible stuff. In how you define integrity and grit and honesty. Again, it's whatever your organization values. The point is AI cannot influence numbers 2 and 3. And if a skill is a hard skill for the company and you don't have it, you're not going to get a look anyways.
Yeah.
So it's kind of all a moot point. What I'm trying to get at here is people get other people excited about opportunities at jobs and vice versa. It's not some mundane, no one's looked at a job description and said, oh, I am stoked about well, maybe JavaScript writers. Maybe I shouldn't use, software developers. But I'm so stoked to use Salesforce CRM because it's in my key list of responsibilities. And then
That job description that's been a copy of another job description.
yeah, right. That's been written by
cares.
ChatGPT, right? The really bad uses of AI in recruiting are, these, to your point, bots talking to bots, AI cover letters, screened by AI screeners. I have LOL in my notes because that's literally what it is. You've got copy pasted AI resumes, which invariably turns into every resume looking and sounding the same. And then you've got training AI on garbage job descriptions, like you just said, so that all of those look homogenous. And now we're automating these bad inputs and making everything look exactly the same.
Yeah. So a couple of small things. So we'll talk about what we're doing to hire well. Again, there's probably companies way ahead of us. Like nothing I'm saying is going to be like terribly shocking.
No.
If you're not doing these things, you should definitely look into them. But like none of this stuff is rocket science. We do have a crew of 8 to 10 people who meet somewhat regularly and just kind of spitball it. They play with, we have Gemini and ChatGPT in-house. They play with both of them, always trying to find new rollout and best practices, which send the rest of the organization. First off is like using it, recording your calls, recording your kickoff calls to your clients. That way you're not missing any detail. Once you get that detail straight from the hiring manager, from whoever else, you can turn that quote like unstructured data, that conversation, into something that's actually usable. You can turn that into better notes than you'll ever take. You can make sure nothing's ever missed. You can also do the same thing on the candidate side. So you actually, when you make submissions, you're able to actually make sure you're capturing all the detail in the exact format the hiring manager wants in a flash, faster than you've ever been able to do it before. Like, again, like submission level writing doesn't have to be like the most creative writing in the world. You just need all the facts and details, nothing left out. But more importantly, you're getting all this into your CRM, your ATS system, so that like you're not losing every time you have things in the future, you're better able to search it. There's so many conversations I've had over the years where you miss details or you get it, but you're not able to save it in a way that's actually searchable. And it's just like, it's not even garbage in, the garbage not getting in, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it gives such a better opportunity.
With a pen, then I sit for 5 hours because I have 7 other things happen. Then I get to putting it in the applicant tracking system. Half of it gets lost in translation. You got 6 filters before you put any sort of information into the database.
Yeah. And the second thing I'll mention too, and this is something we've been doing from BD perspective, but like you could do it from a job seeking perspective. If you haven't looked at deep research, which is fairly new, ChatGPT and Gemini both launched them, that's a great job search tool. Like we use it whenever certain skill sets of great candidates we have, we can search an area. It'll scrape real time. I'll tell it Chicago or any other city. It'll find jobs companies posted on their own websites, which is a great BD tool for us. But if you're searching for a job, that should absolutely be one of the first places you look. I'm crossing my fingers. This is the Indeed killer, because who needs Indeed if you can just go to ChatGPT and it'll actually find 20 companies like looking for someone exactly like you in your local area, because it actually scrapes the entire web. Love it. I've been recommending people do that in their job searches recently. But again, we're using that just to find companies when we have a deep pool of candidates, like who else is looking to hire the exact same type of people.
Yeah, we want it to kill the bad, I won't name anybody, but the bad parts. What makes recruiting so mundane and so tedious? And it could kill that technology. And look, this applies to every job. Those are just some anecdotes from the recruiting side, but when you start talking about this make or breaking recruiting, like this actually also applies to people's careers.
Yeah. Anyway,
companies are, they're going to prioritize people who are curious about AI and want to leverage it to work smarter. Office dorks have always been paid for what's between their ears. They're paid for their brain, not their brawn. If you're not curious and you're not exercising that muscle, you're expendable. That's the bottom line. So we have some final takeaways. What do you got?
Yeah. AI, I mean, it's not AI that's going to replace you. It's someone who knows how to use AI to get more done faster than you that's going to replace you. That's the biggest thing. That's for recruiters. That's for internal recruiters. That's for anybody in any role that's out there, is that you have to be worried about that. Again, the second thing, it's just makes the tactical things faster. If you're looking at your day, if your recruiters do boring stuff all day long, this is a job that's filled with boring crap. That's the exact type of stuff you should figure out how you can get that done faster with less effort using AI.
The next time you're in that space where you're like, dreading to do something, be curious enough to think about how this sort of stuff could help you get that done faster, more painless. The curiosity is going to be the benefit of everything. Self-motivated, curious individuals are going to use AI to amplify their careers, and those that don't will be left in the dust.
We are short on clock. That's a wrap for this week. Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Talent Rant, part of the Talent Insights series, which is always available for replay on talentinsights.harwell.com, as well as YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon. Jeff, thanks again as always. Everyone out there, we'll see you soon.